nice TV in there. I'm telling you. A 16-footer. Why not? There you go. No 16-footers on this show. It's SoCal Saturdays, hanging out with Barry Spears. My name's Louie Rabaut. I'm live at Blind Squirrel. I don't think anyone cares about that, but we are presented by AmWager. AmWager.com, of course. Go check them out. Live in California, they've got all of the great bets available for you there in Southern California. But go check out our friends at AmWager and AmWager.com. 100% deposit match up to $150 right now. At AmWager.com, we will talk Pacific Classic later in the show. We will tell you if a horse is sweet or if they are sour. We'll also tell you why we're playing sweet or sour once we get there. Barry, there are a couple races on this card that I am legitimately like, I don't have any damned idea who's going to win this thing, which makes me very excited. So it's that sort of thing. But welcome in, buddy. How are you? Happy Pacific Classic.
Yeah, I'm excited for that race to see what happens there with Fierceness and company. But I never would have thought that I would be doing a live stream with a guy from Louisville, Kentucky, with a palm tree behind him.
Damn right.
Meanwhile, me in Orlando, Florida, talking about races in California. So a lot going on.
It's a flat earth. You understand me? Me and Kyrie Irving, it's a flat earth. Old mind of Spears there. Barry Spears, Louie Rabaut. We are with you every week around this time, previewing the Saturday card in Southern California, wherever they are running. Entries are out now. They're taking them, at least I should say, for Santa Anita. So we are starting to wrap up this Del Mar thing, but Pacific Classic on Saturday. And Barry, just before we get into it, obviously Jockey Club Gold Cup on Sunday at Saratoga as well. We've got a bunch of really nice stakes at Kentucky Downs. You know, for a down time of year, man, we got a nice little weekend, don't we?
Yeah, especially, this close to, I say this close now, this close to Breeders' Cup. Yeah. We kind of see horses kind of go away and they train up. So it's good to see some of them out there getting in their last little workouts and preps for the Breeders' Cup.
I know this show is catching on, my friend, because I got a text about it on my radio show this morning. So people are obviously starting to pay attention. You are certainly welcome to hang out with us. All of the programming that I do available on that Horse Racing Happy Hour podcast network. You can certainly check that out. Catch Barry most days, by the way, on the notorious OTB as well. What did you interrupt me for? What you mean?
I was going to say, after the week we had last week, I would expect we should have a million viewers, right?
A little repeat business after. You and I, we spend enough time on this circuit. We have come to some conclusions and some good ones about what to do with these races. But let's go ahead and get into the card. If you are unfamiliar with the program, again, we go through the entire card. You can also read my follow-up to this episode at thesportingtribune.com. I'll preview the Pacific Classic in that article this week. And a random thing to throw in. I'm on the simulcast. I'm hosting the simulcast at Horseshoe Indy for the quarter horse day tomorrow. We start at 10:45. Let's make a bunch of money before you bet on all these races in different spots. Yes. But Del Mar opens with a maiden special on the turf there. $80,000 on the line going a mile. This is for maidens 3 and up in this spot here, Barry. And I thought a really fun way to start this card. You and I agree on two of the horses here, a different order for sure, but you landed on Tempest Volat, the 2 on top here.
Yeah, I like horses like Tempest Volat who have a short little break of, 60 to 90 days, and then they come back running. And that's exactly what Tempest Volat did last time. Paired up numbers or buyer speed figures from the race at Keeneland in April to the July 2025 Del Mar race last time. I think there's a jump up in there. This horse is some little bit of recency, is learning the game out, and I think this horse will have a good shot to win this one.
I'm on DeCapo here, second-time starter, stretching out from 6.5 last out at Santa Anita. That was a bit ago, Barry, in March, and so a little bit of time off here, but I do love that we get a bullet work in here. John Sadler, really good off of these kinds of layoffs as well, so hopeful that, frankly, I think we can get a little bit of a price here. Interesting to see Paco Lopez out west, but frankly, when you've got so many guys at Kentucky Downs and then you've got that crew at Saratoga, where else could Paco go and get these kinds of races? Certainly, I think he'll be – I think he's an important player on tomorrow at Del Mar, man. I think Paco could have a lot to say about how the day goes, Barry.
I've always said about Paco that his riding style fits very well in California. I wish he would make the move out there, but there's a lot of things preventing him from doing that. But I think he would fit very well in this circuit. I expect him to guide in at least a couple winners, right?
Yeah. You have the first race 2 7, and 8. So I just talked about DeCapo. What do you like about the first time in North America starter, Never Amley?
Honestly, the race that this horse comes out of, there was 13 horses in that race, and this horse just missed.
Yep.
That's got to count for something in a race like this where there's not much to go off of. You have this horse that was running overseas, even though it was a synthetic race. I don't see why this horse wouldn't be able to take to the turf out of No Nay Never. Uh, kind of the best of the rest. I see that this horse is the morning line favorite, but I don't think that'll actually come to fruition.
Okay, that won't hold up in your mind. Yeah, I have that horse third in my handicapping. So Barry went 2, 7, and 8. I went 8, 5, and 7 here. So I'll talk about Ardent Power. This is the Phil D'Amato that's already started in the United States, right? So this is essentially second start here. Tried the 5 furlongs last time. I think this is just not a sprinter, and so we're going to see this this gelded son of Tamayus. How about that? In this spot, Antonio Fresu gets them out here in place of Vinny Chemino. And so I do think that's a step up as well. I also just love the price here, Barry. I think 12-1 is completely fair. And as you said, not a ton of information to go on in this race. I'll just take one that's already been at Del Mar, has been training at Del Mar as well. I think the works are good enough. And frankly, Phil D'Amato on this kind of break should play well. So again, Barry here, 2, 7, and 8. I went 8, 5, 7 in race 1. We do have a comment from our guy, Steve, who has a request for Barry.
Uh-oh. Okay, go Cards. I gotta wear my Miami stuff again. See, I wear Miami, the Cards win. I don't, they lose.
That's actually a fair point. A $16,000 Claimer awaits bettors in race 2. We're going 6 furlongs on the dirt. There's for 3 and up. Non-2 lifers essentially in this spot, Barry. Speaking of races that we think will have a lot of value, if you're new here, by the way, I tend to go first on the even numbered races. This is race 2, and I've got the number 2 in Wild Recruit. I was surprised to see Barry not on this horse at all, but we're second off the layoff here. I'm going to go ahead, just draw a line through the last effort under Abel Liscano. Not a great one. Herrera gets them out here for Brian Corner, and I think it's the right move. This horse, 2 back, did break its maiden. Guess where? At Del Mar. That was back in November of 24. I think this horse just needed to get on the track last time out, Barry. And if he got it claimed, they would have been totally fine with it. But avoided claim with this one. Been running in concert with these non-2 lifers. I like the speed. When that horse broke its maiden, Kazushi was aboard that day. But I think it's one where if Herrera's able to get this one out of the gate, and this one doesn't have to see other horses in front of him, I think he could definitely win here. And I think he's easily, if not the fastest horse in here, he's one of the very fastest. And so I think he'll get a good start. So I landed on the 2 on top in race 2 in Wild Recruit. You went outside, though, to the 10 horse here in Jaguar John.
Yeah, my notes for this race in Jaguar John is this horse should get the trip of a lifetime.
Okay.
From the outside, clocking all the speed. Inside, there's plenty of it. Should get a nice stalking trip. Has the speed figures to compete here. Probably towers over this field, maybe slightly. So I think Jaguar John is the goods in this spot.
Jaguar Johns, as he mentioned, will break from the 10. I have that horse third in my handicapping. I went 2, 4, and 10, Barry. Talk about Mr. Machu Picchu. Have you ever been to Machu Picchu, Barry?
No, never.
Okay, do you know where it is, Barry?
Have no clue.
Okay, it's in Peru. It is outside of a town called Cusco, and it's one of those to get up there, Barry. It's way up in the mountains. It's like 15,000 feet. I'm not exaggerating, by the way. So we think of Denver as being really high up at 5,200 feet. This is 15,000. We're talking about real elevation, real man stuff. You understand me? So I went with my wife, and it's outside of Cusco. It was discovered by Hiram Bingham. As far as the Europeans are concerned, but yes, there you go. The
only thing I know about Cusco is the Emperor's New Groove. So there you go. That's it. See,
you're like Jerry Seinfeld in that all of your classical music knowledge comes from Looney Tunes, right?
From cartoons, right? Okay, exactly.
Mr. Machu Picchu will break from the 4 here. Jeff Bondi trains. This one almost won in a 16 claimer last time. Barry, guess what we're running for here? 16. That race, by the way, was at 6 furlongs. This one, what distance are we at, Barry?
6.
We're at 6 furlongs. So I think this one, just on value, just on everything else, makes a ton of sense here. Jeff Bondi, this is his realm, right? 20K claimers and down. This is what Jeff Bondi does. He lives in this world. So give me that horse second on my handicapping here. So I'm a bit of a long shot here, 2, 4, and 10 You laid a 10-3-7 here. Coach Cronin, hopefully not the one from UCLA, but we'll be under Armando Ayuso on Saturday.
It certainly is. Yeah, the Galloping
You
Bruin
can buy a
Racing.
college basketball coach for 16 G's, people. Get in.
The Galloping Bruin Racing is the tip-off, but
Oh,
this horse is kind of running at a higher class, pretty much for the whole career. Gets back to doing, gets with the friends, and I think this horse can close into a fast pace, and get maybe the run of the race. I really think this horse can win. The only question mark is the layoff. Hasn't been out since
yes.
October.
Yep. Yeah, the layoff is the reason that I stayed away. But to be fair, Kelly Bynum the last 2 times out, or the last 5 times out, has won 2 of these right off these kinds of layoffs. So not a ridiculous pick. In the least, you also have the 7 in your handicapping here. So just a reminder, I went 2, 4, 10. You went 10, 3, and 7 here. Breaking from the 7 is Kitten in Charge. I think the least seasoned of all the horses here has only run 3 times. But frankly, if we get back to dirt and we get that form that we had at Emerald Downs, this might be your winner.
Exactly. There's not much to go on here. These horses aren't the greatest at the track. So I figured Kitten in Charge could actually pick up some pieces late and get into the picture at a decent price.
There you go. We'll move on to race 3 at Del Mar. Tomorrow, it is Pacific Classic Day. This is SoCal Saturdays on the Horse Racing Happy Hour Podcast Network. I'm Louie Rabaut, hanging out with Barry Spears. We're presented by Amwager. At Amwager.com, go check them out right now. Get your sign-up bonus up to $150. They will match it 100%. So get it right now at Amwager and Amwager.com. Race 3, as I mentioned, is up next on the card. We get into State Bred Company here. We're on the turf going a mile, $81,000 on the line here, essentially for non-2 lifers at this level here, Brary. 7-2 in Brazenly, who is largely a dirt horse and is 0-9 this year, will be the favorite. I sent you a text earlier with just race 3 and a fire emoji because I love this freaking race. Good luck, Barry. Where did you land in this one? I know you like a long shot that I also like.
Oh yeah, I'm licking my chops with a favorite basically who's 0 for 10 on the lawn. I mean, make it make sense,
I'm
but
with you.
I'm okay with that because I like betting against horses
Yep.
like Brazenly, who is really like a dead closer in a race that doesn't have a whole lot of speed. I would be hard pressed to see that horse's favorite, but I hope it happens.
Yeah.
I went to the 5 Prince Dolce. I think this horse is on the rise. I love horses like this in races like this in particular because of the fact that they started out on the dirt. You can see the horse just improve as soon as they get to the lawn and then improve even further once they stretch this horse out. I like the comeback race from a layoff from December 1st to August 2nd.
Yep.
Didn't run all that poorly, got Lasix for the first time, getting it second time. Steady stream of works going into this. This horse looks fit and ready.
Yeah, he's a son of Sir Prancelot as well, so obviously made for the turf that way. I have the horse right next to him on top, Vodka. One last time out in a maiden special at Del Mar, and if you just look at this horse's general progression, was always right there at Santa Anita, back-to-back runs in March and April, finishing second right there under Kyle Frey. Moved to Kate Desormo for the last ride, who, by the way, not a ton of mounts, but is hitting at 15% this year, and frankly, at Del Mar, has been pretty good, has hit the board in 6 of his 11 rides at Del Mar so far this meet. I think this one coming out of that maiden win, I think the light went on. And frankly, I get this one second off the layoff, was off for more than a year last out before breaking its maiden and got better in the middle of the cycle last year. So I'm going to lean on Vodka for Aggie Ordonez here. Great work the other day as well. So I'm wondering if this isn't the horse that can continue its breakthrough in this spot. So I've got a bunch of horses in here. I want you to talk about the 10 though as well, because I've got Annan third in my handicapping. You have him second. What do you like about Annan in this spot?
Well, I like a lot of things about this horse. I just don't like the post position. I think this horse is really coming into this race pretty good. This is certainly a level that this horse can win and excel at. Honestly, if I was their connections, I'd be afraid of somebody claiming this horse out of this race. That being said, I think the post position really hurts this horse as far as being a win candidate. But being competitive in these sort of spots, goes a long way. That California Dreamin' race was pretty good at
Was good.
38-1. Um, and again, the post position really takes the steam out of this one, I think, and should probably come flying late.
An interesting one in there. Like I said, I have the 10 later in my handicapping. Barry went 5, 10, and 2. We'll get to the 2 in a second here. I went 6, 5, 3, 10. And so I'll talk about Brazenly here. At some point, Barry, once in a while, the best horse just wins the race. And so I think putting Brazenly into a multi is a good idea here. I think eventually that horse is going to win a race. I don't know if it's going to be on the grass. I'm not sure where it's going to be, but eventually that horse is going to go from second to first, hit the board 8 times in 9 runs with no wins this year. It's an incredible thing to say out loud. 16 times in his 35 race career, finishing second or third with only 4 wins is a pretty remarkable thing to say. But like you said, 0 for 10 on the turf. At some point,
No
this through, I'm not sure, but at least dropping into state company, I think makes sense for him. But you do have the 2 in your handicapping here in Winning Patriot. Carla Gaines trains here. I really like this play here.
Yeah, it kind of fits the same mold as Carla Gaines' other horse, Prince Dolce, the one I talked about earlier.
I think fits Vodka really well, except that this one's actually coming second off the layoff here.
Right, and that's the key, is the second off the layoff. This horse came back running in this sort of spot. The only reason I didn't use this horse higher in the handicapping is because of the fact that they came back in this level. It wasn't like they were running, at a higher level, then drop down into this level. They're starting at this point, which doesn't really say too much about their confidence, especially with these other horses dropping into this spot. But I think this horse fits here. Probably needed that race, was stuck on the rail, has a second run at it. I think this horse will improve.
A fascinating one, almost certainly the openest race of the early pick 5 races there, race 3, state bred on the grass. Again, I went 6, 5, 3, 10. Barry went 5, 2, and 5, 10, and 2, excuse me, in race 3. We move on to race 4. As we roll along on SoCal Saturdays on the Horse Racing Happy Hour Podcast Network, we're presented by Amwager and Amwager.com. He's Barry. I'm Louie. Thanks for hanging out with us. Happy Pacific Classic weekend to you and yours. Maiden Special in race 4. This is for fillies that are 2 years old, 6 furlongs on the dirt here, Barry. 1 start amongst the 6 that are running here in this one. Even race means I get to go first. I think we're very similar here. We will get to Barry's boring play of the day in just a second. I have reversed order with you, and I'm going to lean on the Richard Baltas trained Heaven's Bolt. We've talked about it before. Mistrial is going to be in here, and with Bob Baffert, you're actually better off betting on debut than you are second time out as far as percentages and different things. Now, as far as value, Mistrial, because of a 25 buyer first time out, might not get a ton of money sent her way, Barry. You might actually get a Bob Baffert at Del Mar in a main special weight for a cheap price. That might actually happen, or a good price, I should say, not cheap, but a good price. But I'm going to lean on Heaven's Bolt here, obviously a son of Bolt Doro, and we have seen these Bolt Doro babies come along in a very serious way this summer. And I learned this from Barry doing this show. Those gate works the last couple of times out give me a lot of hope that this one's going to break well. And since he does get to, gets to break from the 6, I think she's going to have open go. And I think the Flavian Pratt is the best jockey in California this weekend. And so I'll lean on him to do just that. I'm also not putting the 4 in my second spot. I'm doing Santa Monica Beach here, because Doug O'Neill wins way more of these races than we want to admit, right? I just gave you Richard Baltas, who I think is a first-time starter kind of guru, and he wins at 12%. Doug O'Neill wins this at 15%, and frankly, Doug doesn't do anything at 15%. This is his best angle, is with first-time starters, believe it or not. Maybe sprinting is his other best angle, but for a 10% trainer, this is what he does well. This one has a work from the gate. The last 2 times out that are both very good. Breeze from the gate for the first time at Keeneland. And if you watch the progression of those times, Barry, the horse got better and faster out of the gate each time. So I like watching that progression along as well. So give me Doug O'Neill and his trainee here in Santa Monica Beach, second up. So in race 4, I am 6, 2, and 4. You are 4 and 6. Why do you have mistrial on top?
Yeah, I tend to disagree with you on the point that mistrial might be a decent price. I think they're going to absolutely destroy this horse at the windows. I mean, the 25 buyer, you can just put a line through that
Okay.
race. Just the fact that the horse was actually on the track might give this horse even a bigger advantage over these. And I just think this horse is the goods. He's just faster. He's going to be
Okay.
faster, and I don't think it's going to be close either. But we'll see. And then I thought Heaven's Bolt, like you exclaimed, I like those longer gate works closer to the race.
Yep.
And this horse fits the bill. Everybody else was, Santa Monica Beach. I did take a second look at because of Doug O'Neill, but I would think that horse might be better once they put that horse on the grass. And then Molly E does have some fast works, but Michael McCarthy really doesn't get his horses cranked up to win first out. Wouldn't surprise me if that one won,
Okay.
but I just think mistrials is too much for these.
There you go. All right, let's move on to race 5. It'll close out the early pick 5. And of course, you can play the rolling pick 3s here as well. 50 cents down there at Del Mar. Race 5 is the grade 2 Del Mar Mile. We got a surprise guest in this one on Saturday. $300,000 on the line, 3 and up. Obviously, we're going a mile and we're doing it on the turf there. Horses that you have definitely heard of. Cabo Spirit is in here in the 2-hole. Almendares is in here in the 3-hole. Formidable Man, he is in the 4. Zio Joe in the 6th. And oh, hello, King of Gosford 7. Full Serrano lands in the 8 here. And I talked with our guy, Danny Brewer, earlier today on my radio show, and he had talked with the connections of Full Serrano, including John Sadler. And I said, why the heck is this horse on the grass? He said he needs a race. And his form was okay on the grass in Argentina, so they're going to give him a try in this spot. I will admit to you, Barry, I know you do not have that horse on top. I don't hate it. I actually think this is a good idea. I don't hate this at all. And so I think this spot is totally fine. I know you're a play against here, and you landed on the 3 in Almendares, who gets Phil D'Amato, gets Antonio Fresu, and gosh, I think you're going to get every bit of that 5-1, man.
I hope so, because I think Almendares gets a little bit of a setup. There's enough speed in here with Full Serrano outside. We'll have to try to get position. You got Nesso's Last Hurrah, Cabo Spirit. I think things might get a little heated up front, and that will open it up for a horse like Almendares, who's very consistent and closes well pretty much every time he's on the track. I'm going to give him a shot here at a decent price at 5-1.
I think Full Serrano wins here. I really do. I think he's just the best horse of these horses here. I think he's just the most talented. I think he's the fastest. I think the mile's not going to be too much. Obviously, he's 3 for 5 at the, or excuse me, he's never won at the distance on the turf, but those were all races in Argentina, and I don't know what to make of it. You know, obviously he's been a very good dirt horse since he got here. That win in the Breeders' Cup, dirt mile, it is what it is. It stands on its own. There's no reason to make excuses about it. And frankly, he was really good in the Pacific Classic last year, right? He probably should have won the Pacific Classic as well. And so I think this is a spot where he'll be totally fine. I do think you look past King of Gosford at your own risk for sure. 3 for 5 lifetime. You get Flavian in town, just won the Shoemaker Mile. I think he stands out as far as being the class of the race alongside Full Serrano, except if he tries to run like he did in the Shoemaker, where he's got to make up a bunch of ground, I don't think he's going to be able to do it, Barry. I think
it's going to be hard.
He's way too far behind, like a Full Serrano or something. He's done. He's just done.
There's some horses that finish, and King Gosford's going to have to be right there, or else it's going to be curtains. That's why I didn't have this horse at the top, because I think the running style is just going to be a little out of sorts because of the fact there's enough speed in here. Horses can come over the top and outfinish this horse, I think. And that's what I think Almendares is going to do.
And you and I both have Formidable Man in our handicapping. Do you agree with me largely that the Eddie Reed just a little bit too long? If that had been a mile, he's got a shot.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't think this is this horse's best distance. Cutting back to a mile from 1.8 miles is tough. And I think this horse is going to have to work out a trip at 5-2 short price. I would like it to be a little bit easier.
Yeah, he is your winner of the Hollywood Derby and, of course, the Kilroe Mile before winning in the Eddie Reed last out at Del Mar. He is 5 for 5 as Formidable Man on the turf course at Del Mar in his career. Grade 3, Torrey Pines is race 6. This is kind of the end of Summer Oaks out in Southern California. $150,000 on the line. 3-year-old fillies in this one, a mile on the dirt. There have been some really good winners of this race in the past, Barry. It is race 6, so I will go first here. And I am much, if there were a Louie's boring play of the day, this race would qualify for sure. I'm just going to include both Bafferts in my handicapping, and that's essentially how I'm going to look at the race. I think Howen is faster than Tenma, and I think it sets her up to perhaps win this race. And frankly, she can be. And I was on with the guys on the Wrong Lead podcast last night. They have a cool segment called the cool sounder called the takeout reducer. I think there's a world in which Tenma's the takeout reducer here. And I think that it's not because she can't be part of the lead and do all those things. I just think Howen might be funny. It might be faster. And so I'm interested to see how she does in that race, because remember, Tenma was right there in the Kentucky Oaks, and you can blame the wet surface for that. But frankly, every other horse that wanted to make up ground in the stretch did. Now, getting back to a mile from the mile and an eighth, I think is a big positive for her. And so I'm not going to hold that against her. We saw her in the Las Virgenes at a mile at Santa Anita do just fine in that race. But there's some better horses in here, and I think she's going to have to deal with her right next to her in Howen. But I'll use the 2 Bafferts on the inside and be done with it. 2-1 for me in race 6. You've got Homenjoy on top here, the 6 horse in race 6.
Yeah, this horse earned its way into this race, I think. Ever since that race since the horse broke the maiden March 14th, has been on an absolute tear, and stretching out is probably what this horse really wants to do. I think this horse is a stone cold miler and should get a great trip. On the way up, they really handled those horses easily in the Fleet Treat, and coming into this race in exceptional form. Now, as far as Tenma goes, I want to say that she probably doesn't want the lead. She wants a target, and they're going to probably let Howen take it.
Okay.
The key would be 1,000 miles. If that horse gets into it with Howen, that really sets it up for Homenjoy. I think Homenjoy is a better finisher than Tenma, and will probably show it if the pace really heats up. Otherwise, she's going to have her work cut out for her. That's why the price, you got to watch the price, because you don't want to bet Homenjoy at 3-1. You probably would want this horse more 9-2, 4-1, 5-1 ish.
You are 615 here. So there she was. You're going to give her a try. Antonio Fraser gets the mount for Doug O'Neill. Almost certainly her best race was her maiden special win at Del Mar, but she did try the Del Mar debutante, excuse me. In September, wasn't quite up for it then. Of course, Tenma won that race, but did come back. This is second off the layoff here. We're going to go the mile instead of the 6 furlongs. She is bred. I mean, look, Take Charge Indy on the dam side, Munnings on the on the sire side. What do you see here with so there she was?
I like the stretch out, and honestly, this horse does or can finish off races. I mean, those first 3 races were pretty decent. Got into the grade 1 and finished behind Tenma after a pretty terrible start. Came back August 3rd, ran okay, but I think this might set up in their favor. I think the way the race shapes up, this horse could get in the picture late.
She did start her career at Santa Anita in one of those little baby 4.5 furlong races, ran second. O'Neill thought enough of her debut to ship her to Churchill Downs for the debutante, which she ran second in. So obviously he's thought a lot about her for many years, but would have to take a step forward for sure in the Torrey Pines to win against the 2 Baffert trainees. Hanging out with Barry Spears. My name's Louie Rabaut. We are presented by Amwager and Amwager.com. Go check them out right now. A 100% deposit match on your first $150. Available to new clients and new customers out there. Live in California, you can bet all the California tracks. Our friends at Amwager and Amwager.com. Race 7, an optional claimer here. $100,000 claiming price. $82,000 purse. We're going a mile on the turf course at Del Mar as well. And Barry, race 7 means it's time for you to go first. Another long shot for you. If you're right, by the way, you're going to be able to pay off your house on Saturday. Granny Budgie. What a freaking name. I feel like, what does Granny Budgie bring to the potluck? Like, what is she a sweet potato person? Like, what is Granny Budgie doing?
Granny Budgie's bringing mac and cheese to the
There it is.
venue.
Yeah, that's not wrong. Yeah, a little breadcrumb on that. Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
you know, baked. You know that. Yeah,
Phil D'Amato,
nice.
Gio Franco. What do you like about Granny Budgie?
Um, well, this race is a little all over the place, and I think it's wide open and ripe for a price. There really isn't a whole heck of a lot of speed, and I think Granny Budgie could get a good trip or fall into a good trip
Okay.
on the stretch out. Uh, there's really not much speed. I mean, you got a horse in Spicy Bug that's probably going to stretch out, but really, does that horse want to go a mile? I don't think so. I would be hard pressed to think that horse is going to run a mile. You have Vibes,
Yep.
who's another one that will probably be slightly close to the pace, but doesn't want to finish late. Sneaker is in that same category, and so is running a mile in my shoes. So with those horses in those post positions, Granny Budget could slide right in behind those horses and get first run, and I think that might be the winning trip.
Interesting. You and I have 4 and 1, second and third here. It's interesting. We both landed on Hannah Buckle, excuse me, in the third spot. We'll get into the 4 in a second. I have the 5 on top here. First mentioned, shout out Kazushi Kimura gets them out here for Sneaker, a daughter in this case, of Oscar Performance on the turf. Almost won the Solana Beach last out. Did win before that in the Frankie Valentine at Santa Anita in Calbred Company. This is not Calbred Company, but I do think of high level allowances essentially being on the kind of same level as that. And this is a horse, Barry, that 4 runs this year has never been out of the trifecta, right? And so for me, this is one in open company in the Royal Heroine under Drayden Van Dyke, was right there at the end of the race. Had Frankie Dettori up, but Kazushi has had them out the last 2 out. We're second in the form cycle here. I think Sneaker makes all the sense in the world here. So I'm 5-4-1 in race 7. I'll let you talk about Hannah Buckle in this spot. Our guy Armando Ayuso gets them out. This one last out off of a long layoff, gets to go second time up here for Leonard Powell. The two of them right now hitting at 15% at Del Mar.
It's another lightly raced 4-year-old that came off the bench running. Was laid off from October 12th to July 19th. Won that race pretty handily. I know this is a bit of a step up, but I think this horse can handle this rising class. Should get a great trip. Forced to get into the race a little sooner because
I
of
agree.
being
Yes.
on the rail,
Yep.
and that might put this horse in a great position to win this race.
Yep. Horses 2 for 3 lifetime at Del Mar, including a maiden win. And then, of course, last out in optional claiming company. This is a big step from 40 to 100 for that horse, but certainly the 136 and change can be a winning time in that one. We move on to race 8. We can start getting into the meat of the card here toward the later part. Race 7, of course, did start the late pick 5. Race 8 will start the late pick 4. So again, in race 7, I'm 5-4-1. Barry is 9-4-1 in race 7. Race 8's an even number, means I go first, and it is a maiden special. It is a state bred, and we're going for $100,000 on the dirt course there. 6 furlongs. This is for 2-year-olds on the filly side of things. Like I said, $100K in the kitty for this one. Solid field, by the way. Overflow field, frankly, of 12 horses. Final table lady, the 11, will not run this weekend. Just an FYI. I landed on the 5 in Miss Kona. Trying not to overthink this one, Barry. I thought was good on debut. Was willing to pass horses in the stretch on debut. Always love that when I see that. Antonio Fresu keeps them out here for Peter Urton, who hits at 22% with second timers. And so I'm going to lean on Miss Kona in this spot. I think she's very much set up for that. You like the horse right next to her, and God bless her.
Yeah, I think God bless her has a lot of speed. That last work on August 23rd, I'd like a lot. 1 minute and 1, Hanley from the gate. And then the August 3rd work, 47 Hanley from the gate. These longer, fast gate works are real key. Not much going on in this race, to be honest with you. And the Dam, for God bless her, won on debut, albeit on turf. But I'll take it in a race like this, 6-1. God bless her on top.
You got 6 on top there, Barry. You have 3 and 5 following. Cecilia Street's going to be a price. Drayden Van Dyke for Leonard Powell. Blinkers on for this one. What do you like about the second time starter in Cecilia Street?
Comes out of that same race as Miss Kona.
Yep.
And actually had some trouble. I didn't really see too much trouble from Miss Kona. She was
Yeah,
just
fair enough.
kind of lazy and in the back for a long time and just flew home. If that sort of situation happens again, I think Cecilia Street could get the jump and be right there in the mix at the end.
Okay. So Barry 635. I went 5-2-8. Umberto Rispoli will be aboard Cash, the 2 horse here for Doug O'Neill. I thought looked okay last time. Needs to take a step forward. Is now out of the Chris Mitchell barn. And look, Doug O'Neill, I made fun of percentages earlier, but 17% with 2-year-olds. This is something he does really, really well, frankly. And so this is one that began its life in Wyoming, of all things, and has made its way to Del Mar. But like I said, was pretty good last time out under Umberto Rispoli, this daughter of I'll Have Another. Should be interesting in here as well. And like I said, I'm 5-2-8. The 8 horse is Shady Stripes. Aguilar gets it gets them out here for Jeff Bondy. I'm putting a line through the last race because it was on turf, but I don't think the horse looked bad last out. And it's a daughter of Smiling Tiger. We know on the Calbred side of things that those Smiling Tigers, we tend to see them on turf, but that doesn't mean that horse can't win here as well. So looked much better going to the 4.5 on the dirt at Santa Anita. Can we get that form again? We did see this horse break well enough last time. It's not like the horse wasn't competitive, but second in the form cycle here, I do think matters for Shady Stripes. So again, in the race here, I'm 5-2-8. Barry, you're 6-3-5 in this one. So as the maiden specials wear out, here's the late pick 3 again at Del Mar. Involves a $3 minimum pick 3. And it's interesting, Barry. I was at Kentucky Downs yesterday, and I talked with Ken Kirchner. I almost called him Kirk Kirchner, and that's not his name. Ken Kirchner, who is the developer, the director of wagering development for Kentucky Downs and the Breeders' Cup. Okay, so his job is to put together here's how many pick 5s we're going to have, and here's the rolling pick 3s, and we're going to have a high 5 in this race, but not in this race, that kind of stuff. And he made a comment about the $3 pick 3, which is when you don't have to do it at a Kentucky Downs because there's 12 horses in every field, essentially was what he said. Okay, so for their meet, because it's 7 days and everybody's entering, they don't have to worry about minimums on bets, essentially. Okay, and he said, look, if you're running with 5 and 6 horses all the time, raising the minimum on bets makes sense. What's fascinating, though, about Del Mar, Barry, is that it makes sense for the $3 pick 3 at some place like Los Al or on a bad day at Santa Anita or something, whatever. But on a big day at Del Mar with these fields, you can spend a lot of damn money on this pick 3. I was thinking about that this morning, about how freaking expensive you could make this, because frankly, if you told me you wanted to go 3 wide in all these races, at least, Barry, I would believe you, right? I think it's that competitive at the end of the card here.
Yeah, absolutely. That pool should get run up a little bit, and it could be a real lucrative venture. On
It might be
on
the
a
bet of the weekend. It might end up
It
being the
could
bet of the
be.
weekend.
It
It might
could
be.
be.
Just because I think people are excited about this Pacific Classic, and I think, once people get reminded that there's a $3 pick 3 here, they could take a couple shots. People love that turf racing stuff too at Del Mar. I mean, like, I think there's a chance here, man. And by the way, part of the equation here is the Green Flash Handicap. This is a $150,000 grade 3, 5 furlongs on the turf here, Barry. You get to go first here. I think a lot of different spots. A horse that you and I both have in our handicapping is the Brian Coroner trained number 7, Boss Sully, obviously a son of Street Boss here. Our guy Armando Ayuso gets them out here. Talk me into him.
Well, it's very clear that this horse really doesn't particularly like the downhill turf. This horse has won on the downhill turf, but his speed figures are significantly lower. Definitely likes Del Mar, definitely likes the 5 furlong turf. Should get a great trip. The last race was a nice tightener in a optional claimer, $100,000 at Del Mar on July 31st. Should spring out of that into a nice little race here, especially with the favorite Motorius hung out on the outside, although that horse does like to run from the outside better than he does from the inside. But I think it might be a little bit too much. I mean, the times that this horse is out wide at Del Mar has been real hard pressed to get up. It has won Motorius at that trip doing the same thing.
Yep.
But as far as a gamble goes, I would rather not take 2-1 on a horse like Motorius and 8-1 on a horse like Boss Selly in this spot.
What do you think Motorius goes off at?
Motorius probably goes off 9-5.
9-5 sounds right to me. I totally agree with you. Just under 2-1. Deserved though, yes?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a class of this race, right? Is Motorius.
Mhm.
I don't think anybody's going to fight on that. I have Motorius on top because I do think he's the class of the race. I'm fascinated by the inclusion of Queen Maxima here. And I like the idea of her moving from the Oceanitas, which is run at a mile, to this race, run at 5 furlongs, because if you look at her running style in general, Barry, she's not afraid to be part of that early pace scenario. We watched her in the unbridled Sydney here in the grade 3 at Churchill Downs. On Oaks Day, she wasn't just the best horse, Barry. She was, she might have been the best sprinter on that day, right? And that is saying something on Oaks Day, where there are many, many very good horses running on that card. She might have been it. They bring her back in that state, in that restricted company in the Oceanitas. She just runs out of gas by the time she gets to the end. We're second in the form cycle here. Look at that most recent work around the dummies at Del Mar. I think she's really, really ready to go. I'm interested to see with Juan Hernandez keeping them out here, what he decides to do with her. But I think she's got a really legitimate shot here, man. And maybe I'm just biased because I saw her on Oaks Day, and maybe that's just stuck in my head. But another horse that I saw recently who didn't win, but is getting back to 5 furlongs, is Coppola. And that's the 3 horse here, Barry. And at the distance, he is 6 for 11. Now, if you ask him to go 5.5, you ask him to go 6, you're dumb. He doesn't do that. Dale Romans, who, by the way, shout out. We need to pause the show.
Dale Tor.
We need to pause the show. Not only is Dale Romans going into the Cigar Hall of Fame, my man's on the cover of Cigar Aficionado magazine.
Okay. Oh, I saw that. Yeah. I saw that.
Okay. Everybody else is bums. Everybody's bums except for Dale Romans. That's how this works.
Wasn't Mike Joyce on that too?
Was he? Oh, that's awesome.
I thought he was at one point.
I hope so.
He did.
Yeah, at least featured him, I'm sure. Yeah, Mike's all over it. But when we talk about race 9 and we talk about Coppola, Barry, this is what he does, right? And this is a horse, given the fact that this race is going to be, the Breeders' Cup, I should say, is going to be back at Del Mar. I think this is Dale trying to figure out, do I have one more big run with this 6-year-old son of Into Mischief, who whenever I see Dale, I ask him about this horse because he has such an affinity for him. He really loves Coppola. This is not an accident, shipping him out there. Mixed feelings about Vinny Chemino, but it's a turf spread at the end of the day. I think he'll be fine. So I landed, man, I went at 10, 11, and 3. I also have your 7 in my handicapping as well. There's something about Boss Sully and another one, that turf sprint that we saw on Derby Day here at Churchill Downs. We're seeing horses leave Churchill now and run well other places. I agree with you. He's got a serious shot here as well. After the 7, you have Motorius, but then you also have the 2, No Nay Hudson, which, by the way, could not agree more. That horse, very, very serious shot. Maybe not to win, but certainly exact a trifecta play. No Nay Hudson's going to be right there.
Yeah, this horse got nailed last year in this race late by Motorius and Johnny Padres. Should sit sort of the same trip as they got last year and should be coming late. The only problem is the layoff, but should get the setup. I wish we were getting at 10-1 the 2024 version of Coppola, but we're not. So None Hudson is probably the second best alternative there. I think this horse likes this distance. Seems to like Del Mar. I know they just had that one run, but it was an awfully good one and just missed. So at 12-1, it's definitely worth a shot in a race like this.
Yeah, and frankly, if you look at that turf sprint, you go back and look at Pimlico, go watch the replay, and you tell me if you think that was a good turf course or if it was a bog. Okay, like I think that horse ran in a bog in Baltimore, and we're holding it against him, and I'm not doing that. You win an allowance at Keeneland in a sprint, that's a serious thing. I've made the joke already. It was under Luan Machado, who doesn't even know where the finish line is at Keeneland, but don't need to make that joke again. Don't need to make it again. Barry, nope. I'm not going to make that joke again. We're done. I made it yesterday. I've repeated it like 3 times today. I don't need to do it again. That's it.
Nope, no more.
That's it. That's enough times. A horse that I heard about last night that I didn't hate the argument in favor of, and now I'm totally blanking on it, is, never mind. I think it was Boss Sully, actually. So never mind. I'll move on from that. But if in terms of the late pick 3, Barry, how many horses from this field would you include in your handicapping in that ticket?
In the 9th race, I would use the horses I have. I'd use the 7, 10, and 2.
All right, 2, 7, 10 for Barry in race 9. I would use the 3, 10, and 11 in that race to start the pick 3. We continue now with the Grade 1 Pacific Classic. Barry, I've become friends, and I know it's a guy that you I don't think you've met, but you'll get to meet him at the Breeders' Cup. But John Lindo, Thoroughbred LA, and just a decades of great work in Southern California, owner, all the things. A real horseman. He really is. I really like John. John talks about, circuits change over time, Barry. You grew up around the New York circuit, and people are very quick to tell you the story about, they almost closed Saratoga in the 70s, that kind of stuff. And, the Big A was like the spot. Equestrius, that restaurant that we did our show in for the Wood this year, was the largest restaurant in New York City by square footage for a long time. Right. And now they're going to rip Aqueduct down, and how these things change, how these circuits change over time. The Pacific Classic, I'm not saying it was an afterthought, Barry, but it wasn't the biggest race in Southern California in this group. It was Big Cap Day, right? At Santa Anita, that was the day. But the Pacific Classic has blown past it in popularity, in where trainers want to send their horses, in purse money, in all kinds of things, right? And so this has become their race in Southern California. And Barry, on top of that, for years, guys like you and me who follow this thing every day lamented this handicap division. We lamented the older dirt horses that stuck around because so many of them ran off to the breeding shed. The idea that we get Fiercest Nisos in journalism in the Pacific Classic, and we get Mindframe Sierra Leone and others in the Jockey Gold Cup in the same weekend, was not even on our radar 5 years ago. This wasn't even a thought. We just assumed this era of horse racing had gone away. And I share all of that, Barry, to say, all the pessimistic people out there, once in a while, it just takes a couple of people to move pieces around and we're good to go. And who cares if it's Mike Rapoli? Just send Fierceness to the West Coast. Just run Mindframe. I don't care who owns these horses. Just send them to the gate for me, please, so that I can bet on them, infuse cash into the sport, and keep it going. That's all I want in this spot. We're going to play a game. The fastest Pacific Classic ever was Candy Ride, 159.11. 159 flat, Barry. How about that? What you know about 159 flat? Nothing. All right.
Nothing.
So in honor of Candy Ride, if a horse has a chance to win, we're going to call him sweet. If not, we'll call him sour. Barry, better candy, sweet or sour?
Sweet.
Yeah, I'm a sour guy. All right. So another one that Barry got wrong. We start with Fierceness on the inside. He's the one horse here. Barry, you do not have him on top, but do you give him a sweet chance to win or a sour chance to lose?
Sweet chance to win.
What happens if he wins this race? How does it shake out?
Well, I think he actually has the whole race in his hands, to be honest. I don't believe that Nisos really wants to be on the engine. They would rather have the target. And it's a precarious position because Fierceness gets bowled on the lead and gets bowled at Del Mar. We saw that happen in the Breeders' Cup Classic last year, where this horse ran his eyeballs out in that race.
Yep.
This is a much easier race because of the field and because this horse should really essentially be lone speed. Now, if he can carry it the 1.25 miles, which he's done before, but against 3-year-olds, almost did it in the Classic last year.
Yeah, that's what I'm leaning on, yeah.
But still hasn't been himself this year yet. So it's really up in the air, and I don't know if I'm really questioning whether if Niso's pushing this horse will kind of tire him out.
Fierceness will break from the 1. I was actually very happy to see him in the 1 because guess what they're going to have to do? Go. The way Tom Velasquez is going to win this race is just go. I'm absolutely sweet on Fierceness. I would be 0% surprised if he wins. And frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if he's impressive in winning. How about that?
Yeah.
Would not surprise me because I do think that much of him. Your second place finisher in the Gold Cup, the Grade 2 Gold Cup, is back here. Frankly, almost picked off Skippy in that one and was right alongside him for much of the stretch in Midnight Mammoth, a son of Midnight Loot. They bred this one for $10,000. He's earned over $400,000 in his life, Barry. Interesting race last out. He wins over Wet Fast Go 2 back. Before that was nowhere to be found Sweet or sour on him? Can he repeat that performance?
Well, there's versions of this race where fierceness kind of lets him go.
Yeah, I don't.
Uh-huh.
I agree with you.
But I just don't think he has the chops to win a race like this. Not at this point in time. So I'm very sour here.
I will say I think if he runs the race last year, he's probably the betting favorite. That's how bad the Pacific Classic was last year. Just like the field is not good. And Mixto goes ahead and picks up the field. He'd come out of the Pleasanton Mile running second, did Mixto last year before winning this thing. So certainly Midnight Mammoth would be less of a surprise than that. Ultimate Gamble, the 3-horse here, Mark Glatt and Kazushi Komura. We sweet or sour on this one?
Super sour. That is the ultimate gamble, though, if you bet that horse.
And we move on to Nisos, who will break from the 4 for Bob Baffert. Flavia Pratt, obviously, in town to ride this one. Last time we saw him blow out the field, Barry, was in the Robert B. Lewis last February. We thought, oh my God, we've got our Derby winner on our hands. And of course, he goes to the bench. We don't see him until the Churchill Downs this year, where we're like, wow, that's a very advantageous spot for them to sit. And then it rains for the whole week. We built an arc to make sure we could get to the track. And then he runs his eyeballs out, and he's been perfect since he got back to California. Nice, so sweet or sour?
Sweet, but there's questions with the distance.
No doubt about it. Yeah, I think the distance is the question, no doubt. He is a son of Nyquist, so we've seen stranger things than that. But I'm with you. He is sweet, and I have Nisos on top in my handicapping in case anyone's wondering. I think they've been setting it up for this. I also am kind of rooting for that, because then it would just add another classic distance horse to the Breeders' Cup Classic, and we could have like 7 or 8 legitimate contenders in that race between the 2 3-year-olds that we've got. A Sierra Leone, a Fierceness, a Nisos. Obviously, a Mindframe is going to fit into that. That's half a dozen right there. Give me Nisos to add to that group would be ideal this weekend. Indispensable, Paco Lopez. This is his mount in this race. This one last out under Hector Berrios, won an optional claimer over a mile. Before that, ran second in the Zia Park Derby. I'm sour on this one, Barry. Where'd you land?
Super sour, hasn't run fast enough to win a race like this.
I agree. Journalism will break from the 6th. This is the horse you have on top. Barry, tell us about Journalism.
I think Journalism might get the setup here. With Fierceness kind of winging it, and even if Midnight Mammoth kind of gets involved early, I still think as long as Journalism keeps in touch and doesn't do the weirdness where this horse likes to get pinned in under other horses on the rail for some reason, if they don't do that, I think Journalism actually gets the run of the race here on his home court, the whole 9. I think he just is a really, really, really good finisher and should run these horses down.
More of a concern running against older horses for Journalism, or the distance for Nisos?
Distance for Nisos.
More of a concern, travel for Fierceness, distance for Nisos?
Distance for Nisos.
More of a concern, Nisos is awesome, or lure him in is only 20 to 1?
Lure him in is only 20 to 1.
Yeah, we'll take sour on that one. And then Tarantino will break from the outside. Is this the long shot with the best shot to hit the board?
No, definitely not.
Who's the long shot with the best shot to hit the board?
I'd say probably Midnight Mammoth.
I agree. Yep. Midnight Mammoth seems to have put it together the last couple of races, going multiple. But are we both sour on the outside horse in Tarantino for Peter Root?
Super sour.
All right. So you keep saying super sour, and I get
mega sour, like the Warhead
I start
sour.
salivating because I like those things. So stop doing that. All right, you're on Journalism on top. You went 6, 1-4. I went 4-1-6, and so we are the same in the second spot, and our first and third are flipped around. Let's talk this through. Let's say Journalism wins the Pacific Classic like you predict.
Okay.
He will then have won the Santa Anita Derby, grade 1. The Preakness, a grade 1, second in the Derby, second in the Belmont, wins the Haskell, wins the Pacific Classic against older horses, including last year's second place finisher in the Classic and Nisos. Does that draw him on equal footing with Sovereignty for 3-year-old of the year?
I think it does. It should.
It does to me. I want to be clear.
It should, but I think popularity comes into play, and Sovereignty is just more popular, and I think that might be the difference. It's not for the fact that Sovereignty is a much better or just even better horse.
Yep.
I think they're pretty equal talent-wise, and Sovereignty just got the best of them twice.
I think Sovereignty is the better horse. I want to be really clear, but I think ownership gets credit for shipping to Kentucky, Maryland, New York, New Jersey, back to California, running this horse against all comers in all these races, taking on older horses in this spot. If he wins here, man, I think I would lean toward journalism as 3-year-old of the year. And I think he gets credit for running in all 3 legs of the Triple Crown for that too. All kinds of things. Just an interesting little headline to watch as we move through the card. Again, we are presented by AmWager and amwager.com. We'll move on to the closer here at Del Mar. It is the Del Mar handicap. We're back on the turf going 1 3/8 miles. Grade 2, $300,000 on the line here. This is a fun race, Barry, and it is an odd numbered race, which means you get to go first, and that breaks my heart because we have 2 horses in common, but I feel really strongly about the one I have on top that you do not. And so let's go inside the mind of Spears. Who you got in this one?
I took number 7, Truly Quality. I think this horse really likes this distance. I think the distance is the equalizer here and puts this one in the winner circle. All the trips that this horse has had at shorter distances have not been all that good. And as soon as they stretch this horse out, you could just see the improvement. This race, February 8th, was good. The San Marcos was kind of hung out wide and probably needed that race. I know it was February and we're in August, almost September. Which is a little bit of a concern, but the horse is training really well coming into this. A lot of turf works, longer type works on the turf, and it kind of sets up. I think this horse can just run all day.
The other part of this is Jonathan Thomas is 1 for 13 right now with 7 other finishes on the board in his 13th races. He's just due to break through on one of these. I got to ask you, do you know what Jonathan Thomas looks like and sounds like?
I assumed that he was British of some sort.
Like, dude, I think he's the most anonymous good trainer in America. Like, it's unbelievable. And this horse, by the way, classic Jonathan Thomas stuff. Belmont, Kentucky Downs, Keeneland, Santa Anita, Aqueduct, Saratoga, Colonial, Woodbine, Del Mar, and all in this horse's past, just on the screen. Just let me be. Take him anywhere. Run him anywhere. That's some good stuff, man. I have the 7. I think 3rd in my handicapping. Let me get there. I do. But I have the 5 on top here. I am stunned not to see this horse in your handicapping coming out of the Shoemaker Mile is Atit Lan. And I just think getting back to this distance makes all the difference in the world. The San Luis Rey, he won that race. After that, he runs in the Winningham and at 1.25 miles at Santa Anita. Doesn't have to cross over a dirt course here at Del Mar. He just has to run on grass. He is 1 for 4 with 2 third-place finishes at Del Mar, but that was in the Del Mar Derby where he finished a very good 3rd under Hector Berrios. Gets back to Hector Berrios here. I've been singing his praises on the grass to anyone who will listen. I love the 5-1 number. He and Sheriff's hitting at 21% this meet at Del Mar as well. So I've got a T-Lon getting back to the distance. I think he'll be really good. The 5 horse on top here in my handicapping. We both have Gold Phoenix in our handicapping here, Barry, the 11 horse on the outside. How much of this for you, like it was for me, is more of a connections play than anything else?
It's more of I like the track play than anything else.
Okay.
I was really disappointed in this horse on August 9th. Really should have won that race. Didn't get over the hump. Now gets into this spot. Lasix off or no Lasix.
Yep.
On the way outside. I really don't like any of this for Gold Phoenix. But the horse is good enough to show up in the picture, and consistent with his closing and how he finishes races. I just don't like this post for this horse to win.
Only 6 horses in this field last year. Gold Phoenix broke from the 5 and won it last year, so is the defending champion here in this one. I'm 5, 11, and 7. You have the 7 on top, so I'll let you. You've already talked about True Quality, excuse me. But you also have the 9 in your handicapping. That's what I meant to get to. And this is one that I was really fascinated with, Barry, and one that I looked at pretty hard about inclusion here, and that is Endlessly. One of my favorites coming into the Derby last year. Obviously, the Ammermans getting up there in years decided that they wanted to try to get in the Kentucky Derby with Endlessly. Barry finished in the top half. It's not like he showed his ass in that race by any stretch of the imagination. I thought, frankly, he was pretty good, all things considered, on the dirt there in the Kentucky Derby. But he gets back here to the turf. He wasn't great in the Wicker last out. What gives you hope that he's going to hit the board here at least?
Well, his Wicker wasn't as bad as it looks on paper. He was caught way wide. He was in the 10 spot, really didn't have an extended or great chance to win that race. So I could put a line right through that one. And I think that distance is a little bit short for him too. I really think he wants to go longer, and he'll be better on the stretch out. He'll be closer up to the pace and get a better trip for that. His first 3 races were very, very good on the turf, going a mile, and stretching him out makes a lot of sense. He really didn't have a chance in either of his races prior to his last one. So his 3 races this year, he really didn't have a shot. The deterministic race, that horse went wire to wire and really had no shot. The setup just wasn't there. Same thing for the April 20th race. The setup wasn't there. It was a short race going a mile. Just not this horse's bag. But I think the stretch out makes a lot of sense, and the price makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the price certainly makes sense. The son of Oscar Performance, of course, won the Jeff Ruby Stakes to qualify last year after winning the El Camino Real Derby, the last one there at Golden Gate Fields. There is your trivia question for the day. Who won the last ECR Derby? I was texting with Dinnerman this morning because, oh gosh, what's his name? There's a horse running in an earlier turf race that used to run a billion races at Golden Gate.
Freeport Joe?
Freeport Joe is on the card. There it is. I sent a picture of Freeport Joe's past performances to our guy, Matt Dinnerman. And there you go. So this has been another edition of SoCal Saturdays. We're going to get out of here. But Barry, who is your pick in the Jockey Club Gold Cup at Saratoga?
Sierra Leone to the hoop.
Hard to go against. I'll go with Mind Frame just to go against. I'm Louie Rabaut. He's Barry Spears. It's been another edition of SoCal Saturdays on the Horse Racing Happy Hour Network. If you have not found us yet in any other spot at Horse Happy Hour, and certainly wherever you get your podcasts, and definitely on Spotify. We do a lot of our video stuff over there on Spotify as well. Would love to have you as one of our listeners. You can join the hundreds of Polish people who download this show every week. I don't understand why either, but you know what? Shout out to Poland.
That's right. Shout out.
Happy Pacific Classic, Poland.